Hi, I'm Michael Caines, chef patron of Limster Manor and an adoptee. My story started when I was born in a mother and child's home in Exeter. In those days, unfortunately, being in a mixed-race family was not deemed socially acceptable. And so therefore my mother was told that unless she gave up her child and had it adopted, that she wouldn't be accepted within the family. So mothers and children's homes were where mothers who were pregnant for whatever reasons went and had their children, and then they were looked after until such time that they were adopted. And my mother looked after me for 6 weeks until they found a suitable family. And in that time, obviously, you can only imagine what a mother would have gone through. And then one day she was told to go out and take a walk, and she did, and she came back and I'd been adopted. But I was adopted nevertheless into a loving family, and I was the youngest of 6 children, and I had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And you know, I grew up in a unit of love and acceptance of who I was, feeling absolutely no different. But I was always very aware of my story growing up. I knew I had a sister who had also been fostered, and we did try and get her adopted. But my father obviously was close to her in London, so that didn't happen. And you know, I grew up knowing that I was given up at 6 weeks, and at the same time, it always led me to question, you know, that whole process and what went on. But it didn't affect me. It just gave me a few questions that I needed to answer at some point in my life. I always knew I was adopted, partly because I was a different colour skin, so I knew that my brothers and were of natural birth. Some children live a lie, they don't know. They were adopted and they grew up in a family where that whole history of adoption had been, you know, perhaps buried. But for me, I always knew I was adopted, and I always knew that my natural parents were, you know, my father was from the West Indies, I thought initially from Jamaica, and my mother was from London. So that was a part of my childhood. It was a part of who I was, and I wasn't denied that story, which I think was important. So I always knew I was different, but there was a reason for that difference. And my brother also, one of my brothers was adopted too, and he didn't deal with it quite so well as I did. I had perhaps a capacity to understand and more compassionate about my circumstances than my brother, who seemed quite angry about it. But I dealt with it really well because I felt loved. You know, the unit that is a family is very important. I think you say what you're nurtured and what you're natured in life is true. You know, I grew up in a family where my father said if I got an education, that I looked after myself in terms of give myself the opportunity to do better, then that would be the most important thing in life. And what you brought up in terms of culture of a family, the values of your family and the love of family is more important as well. And I think, you know, as I look back, I didn't want for anything. There were some difficult questions that were asked sometimes, and I grew up in a predominantly white society, was often the only black child or mixed race child in school. But then I don't think that was really a problem. I look back and that's just a reflection of where I grew up, but I got no problems at all really with my story. I did want to meet my sister, and I felt, you know, a yearning to find out more about my background, a sense of where I'm from and my history. I grew up craving black icons because I was denied a black culture. I often would look to black history or black sport icons or people who were iconic of their time, people like Martin Luther King or be it Jesse Jackson or somebody like Michael Jackson even, and I looked to those to give me some identity. But I wasn't denied that identity. It was just that I lived in a predominantly white society where that culture didn't exist. And that contrasted remarkably with my sister's story, which I found out later on in life. But despite my story, despite my circumstances, you know, I was brought up in a family where the benefits of being adopted were immense. It had a huge positive impact on my life, and those questions were never denied me in terms of the answers, and I was given enough knowledge later to be able to pursue those questions with the right answers. But I think when I look back at my childhood and the love and the friendship and the whole community of family, it was a massive positive for me, and adoption works in a sense that it gives you that social mobility to go from a circumstance where things might be difficult into a family where you can be loved. And the family unit is ultimately the most important way to bring up your children. You have the brothers and sisters, or the family unit of the lover parent, to give you that guidance and the best start in life. And I think in that regard, adoption really does work more than fostering, more than being left in social care, because the unit of a family where the love is without doubt, undiscriminatory, completely total, and the responsibility as a parent to a child and a loved one is more important, and those values come through. And I think when you profile the parents and get that absolutely right, and the parent understands what they're undertaking in terms of the needs of the child, I think it becomes, despite the problems that come with it and some of the issues that we have to deal with in a modern day for adoption, there's one thing for sure, is children are giving a much better platform to grow up and become a part of our society through adoption. The process of adoption is very daunting, especially for parents who have to go through so many checks to make sure that they're suitable and also that they're safe to take children within their environment. But the perseverance of that process is important for the child and the children that you might be adopting, but more important, it also gives the reassurance that we're getting the right children into the right family environment. And I think it's worth persevering, because ultimately adoption works both ways. It gives you the opportunity to love and care for individuals that are in need, and at the same time it gives those children that are in need an opportunity to grow up in a safe and loving environment. My association with Families for Children goes back many years, and it started with Adoption Week, where I was asked to get involved to highlight the benefits of adopting and being an adoptee. I felt that it was only right and proper that I use my story to help demonstrate successes of adoption and how important it is that we give that opportunity for children and families to enter into the process. But things have changed since my story. Things are much more difficult for people. We are struggling to find families, and we've got priority children and sibling groups that desperately need the right families to grow up, as I did, within a loving and caring and safe environment. And I think what we need to do now is focus our attention on highlighting the benefits of adoption, and also the, if you like, the challenges that we have. And it's important that we take this opportunity to get a strong message across that the benefits of adoption work both ways, and the care and attention that we give as a charity beyond adoption is effectively the success of what we do. More so, it's the care, the social understanding, the opportunity to support families who have got perhaps difficult circumstances, to understand that children come perhaps with issues that need to be dealt with through the social care that we are able to give. And I think that's a very, very strong positive for our charity, is the after support to ensure that the process is complete, and that the children and the families feel that they're supported throughout. So if you want to find out more about adoption, go to familiesforchildren.org.uk.